The sun glittered across the bay, catching the sleek curves of the $200 million yacht that had just docked at the private marina, a playground for the wealthy, where old money paraded their fortunes and new money fought to be seen. It was a kind of place where whispers carried faster than the ocean breeze, and appearances meant everything. That's where she first spotted her. Karen, the self-appointed queen of the Homeowners Association back home, still dressed like she ran the world even on a borrowed vacation. Karen tilted her sunglasses down, taking one long, mocking look at the young woman stepping onto the dock, before letting out a sharp laugh. "Now that's cute," she snickered to her circle of equally smug onlookers. "A little tourist dreaming she's made it." They all laughed with her, oblivious to the truth standing just a few feet away. The young woman, her name was Lila, smiled politely, brushing off the cold stares like sand off her sandals. She knew something they didn't. She didn't just belong here. She owned it. Every boat in this fleet, every slip in this marina, every sleek yacht these people were scrambling to impress. All hers. But she wasn't ready to reveal her cards. Not yet. Sometimes, the sweetest victories are the ones you savor slowly. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, because where this story is headed, you're going to want a front row seat. Karen had always thrived on shallow victories. Small triumphs she could wield over others like a scepter. Back home, she ruled over the HOA meetings with an iron fist, handing out citations for mailbox colors and flower beds that didn't meet her standards. Lila had watched from a distance, never giving Karen a reason to single her out. Until today. Seeing Lila step onto a yacht was too much for Karen's fragile ego. Must be one of those Instagram renters. Karen sneered loud enough for Lila to hear, clutching her mimosa like a trophy. The other women tittered in agreement, eager to stay in Karen's favor. Lila just smiled again, that same soft, knowing smile that seemed to unsettle Karen more than any argument ever could. As the group paraded toward the largest yacht, a shimmering behemoth with silver trim and a helipad, Karen strutted ahead, loudly claiming she'd been personally invited by the owner. "We met at a gala last spring," she lied effortlessly. "People like us, we just belong together." Lila followed at a distance, her sandals tapping lightly against the polished boards. She could feel the stares now, not just from Karen's group, but from the staff, the crew, even the captain, who had straightened his jacket and stepped forward, scanning the small gathering with professional precision. He wasn't looking for Karen. He was looking for Lila. A flicker of confusion crossed Karen's face when the captain's eyes found hers by mistake, a fleeting second before he corrected himself, his gaze locking onto Lila with instant recognition and something else respect. Karen caught it, too. Her laugh faltered. The first crack in her perfect facade. The game was about to change, and Lila was more than ready to play. The dock fell quiet as the captain approached, his steps measured, his expression unreadable. Karen puffed herself up, smoothing her designer tunic, and flashing a smile that was a little too eager. "We're here for the private tour," she said, gesturing to her entourage like a queen presenting her court. But the captain didn't even glance at her. Instead, he stopped in front of Lila, offering a crisp salute. "Miss Greystone," he said, his voice warm but formal. "Your fleet is prepared. The crew is standing by for inspection." For a moment, the only sound was the distant cry of a seagull overhead. Karen blinked, her smile flickering like a dying light bulb. "Fleet?" she repeated, the word catching awkwardly in her throat. Lila tilted her head, pretending to ponder. "Oh," she said lightly, "you must have thought I was here to tour. I'm just checking on a few things." She turned to the captain with a casual nod. "We'll start with the Artemis. She took on new tech last month. I want to make sure everything's running smooth." Karen's jaw hung slightly open, her mind scrambling to keep up. The Artemis wasn't just a yacht. It was the yacht, the crown jewel of the marina, the one featured in magazines and whispered about in real estate circles. And Lila had spoken about it like it was just another errand on her list. Behind Karen, a few of her friends shifted uncomfortably, sensing the shift in power but too afraid to say a word. Lila caught Karen's eye for just a moment, long enough to offer a tiny, almost pitying smile, before turning away, leaving Karen standing there, frozen in her own delusion. Some lessons Our best learned the hard way. Lila moved with an effortless grace, following the captain up the gangway as the crew snapped to attention. Crisp uniforms, polished brass railings. Every detail of the yacht was pristine. A floating kingdom, and she was its ruler. Behind her, Karen finally unfroze, stomping awkwardly up the dock in her two high wedges, trying to keep up. "Wait," she called out, her voice cracking. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot." Lila didn't break stride. She simply let the words drift away with the sea breeze. Up on the deck, the captain offered Lila a tablet. "Updated inventory, Miss Greystone," he said. "And a note. The maintenance on your Mediterranean fleet is ahead of schedule. They're requesting your final approvals before they can showcase." Karen, who had finally scrambled onto the lower deck, heard every word and turned pale. Mediterranean fleet can showcase. It was too much, too fast. She clutched the railing, swaying slightly as reality set in. This wasn't a lucky rental. This wasn't some influencer posing for clout. This was real, and Lila was someone who moved in worlds Karen could only fantasize about. "You own all of this?" Karen finally croaked out, the disbelief in her voice making the crew exchange amused glances. Lila turned slowly, her eyes kind, almost sympathetic. "Oh, Karen," she said with a soft laugh, "I own a lot more than this." She let the words hang there, heavy with meaning. Behind Karen, the group she once commanded had gone silent, their loyalty evaporating with every second that ticked by. The Queen Bee had just realized she wasn't even invited to the hive. Karen opened her mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to make another excuse, but no words came out. She stood there, blinking against the sun, suddenly small and out of place against the gleaming backdrop of Lila's world. Lila, meanwhile, turned her attention back to the captain, who waited patiently, tablet in hand. "Has the new security protocol been installed?" she asked, her tone shifting to business, cool, commanding. The captain nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Facial recognition access only. No unauthorized visitors allowed aboard moving forward." Lila smiled, but there was a glint in her eye now, sharp as a shard of glass. "Good. I don't want misunderstandings." Karen flinched, understanding the warning all too clearly. She had laughed at Lila, dismissed her, belittled her, all from the comfortable perch of assumed superiority. But now the tables had turned, and Karen didn't even have a chair to cling to. In a final, desperate bid to save face, she straightened her sunglasses and gave a brittle laugh. "Well, she said, waving a manicured hand, "we all started somewhere. Maybe one day I'll have a little yacht too." Lila turned, her voice soft but edged with something steelier. "Karen, you don't start with yachts." She let that hang a moment, her gaze steady. "You start with respect. Something you never learned." Karen's smile faltered, cracking like thin ice under too much weight. Around them, the crew went about their work, utterly indifferent to Karen's unraveling. And for the first time in as long as anyone could remember, Karen was left standing alone. No crowd to back her, no status to hide behind. Just a woman exposed, and a truth she couldn't laugh her way out of. By now, word started to ripple through the marina like a rogue wave. Staff whispered behind gloved hands. Guests craned their necks for a better look. Even the neighboring yacht crews paused their duties, sensing that something deliciously scandalous was unfolding. Karen could feel it, the weight of all those eyes, the judgment she was so used to dishing out now being served back to her tenfold. She tried to fix her posture, to summon that familiar haughty smirk, but it wouldn't come, not with Lila standing there, so calm, so unshakably in control. Lila handed the tablet back to the captain and turned her gaze to the horizon, breathing in the salted air like she had all the time in the world. "It's funny," she said, her voice carrying just enough to be heard, "how people show you who they really are when they think you're nobody." Karen flushed scarlet, every muscle in her face stiff with panic. "I didn't know," she stammered, words tumbling over each other. "I thought you were just..." "Just what?" Lila asked, her voice soft but merciless. Someone you could humiliate without consequence. There was no venom in her tone, just quiet, devastating truth. Karen looked down, the realization sinking in heavier than the weight of the ocean beneath her. For the first time in her life, she couldn't talk her way out. She couldn't manipulate, couldn't twist the story in her favor. She was nothing more than a footnote on someone else's far bigger, far grander stage. And everyone watching knew it. The queen of petty neighborhood politics, undone by her own arrogance. Lila turned away from Karen without another glance, walking deeper into the yacht's interior like she had far more important things to do. Because she did. The truth was, this wasn't even the first time someone like Karen had underestimated her. It happened more often than she'd like to admit. But today felt different. Today, she'd been given a stage, and she wasn't about to waste it. As she disappeared inside, Karen hovered awkwardly on the deck, unsure whether to retreat or somehow dig herself deeper. She chose the latter. "Look," Karen blurted out, voice shrill with desperation. "I'm sure we can work something out. Maybe I could, help with events, charity fundraisers. I'm really good with people." The captain, standing by, raised an eyebrow in polite disbelief. Lila, hearing Karen's pathetic pitch echo down the marble halls, paused, a small smile flickering across her lips. "She still doesn't get it," Lila murmured to the steward beside her, who chuckled under his breath. Then she turned, walking toward the conference room where her team, her real team, waited. Around the polished mahogany table sat investment brokers, luxury brand representatives, and legal advisors. A plan was already in motion, something bigger than Karen could even dream of. A partnership deal with an elite Mediterranean yacht club. Expansion into 3 new international marinas. The kind of moves Karen's world could barely pronounce, let alone participate in. As Lila leaned over the table, studying the contracts waiting for her signature, she caught a glimpse of Karen's reflection in the glass wall, still hovering outside like a stray dog, desperate for scraps. Lila didn't feel anger. She didn't even feel pity anymore. Only a quiet, steady resolve to keep building her empire brick by glittering brick. The sun was sinking low, painting the marina in molten gold by the time Lila reemerged onto the deck. Papers signed, deals sealed, the future laid out before her like an endless stretch of calm water. She found Karen still there, clinging to the last scraps of dignity, like a castaway clinging to driftwood. Lila could have ignored her, could have sailed away without another word. But something inside her knew some lessons had to be finished, not abandoned halfway through. She stepped toward Karen, each footfall deliberate. "Karen," she said gently, "you should go home." Karen flinched at the words, her hands knotting around the strap of her expensive and now laughably small handbag. "I didn't mean anything by it," she mumbled, voice so low it barely carried over the breeze. Lila tilted her head slightly, studying her, not with cruelty, but with a clear-eyed detachment of someone who had finally, completely outgrown her opponent. "Meaning it or not doesn't erase it," she said. "You treated me like a joke because you thought I didn't matter." Karen's lip trembled, whether it was from humiliation, regret, or just the shock of being exposed. Even she probably didn't know anymore. Lila took a breath, feeling the salt air fill her lungs, steady and clean. "There's a whole world beyond gated communities and backyard politics," she continued, her voice softer now. "A world you can't bully or vote yourself into. You earn it with respect, with kindness, with vision." Karen blinked rapidly, mascara smudging at the corners of her eyes. Without another word, Lila turned away and nodded to the crew. The engines hummed to life beneath her feet. The captain raised the gangway. Karen stumbled backward, still frozen in place, as the yacht pulled gracefully away from the dock, and from her. The yacht glided out into open water, leaving behind the awkward little crowd still lingering on the dock, and Karen, a crumpled figure among them. Lila leaned against the polished rail, watching the coastline recede, feeling the last of the tension unspool from her muscles. It wasn't revenge she felt. It wasn't triumph either. It was something quieter, deeper, closure. Meanwhile, back at the marina, the whispers grew louder. Word spread fast. How Karen Monroe, the self-styled queen of the suburban kingdom, had been humiliated by a woman she tried to belittle. Lila's name traveled through the air like wildfire, but now it was spoken with awe, with curiosity, with a reverence Karen had always craved but never truly earned. A few of Karen's closest allies peeled away first, suddenly remembering urgent appointments or new friendships to cultivate. By the time the evening tide rolled in, Karen was alone, not just metaphorically, but literally. Her so-called friends didn't even bother pretending anymore. Some wounds, it turned out, didn't bleed. They just bled people. At home, Karen sat alone at her kitchen island, scrolling through social media and seeing it all unfold. The yacht photos, the investment announcements, the luxury event invitations with Lila's name shining bright. Every post was a reminder, not just of what she didn't have, but of what she'd thrown away without ever realizing it. And worst of all, Karen knew, deep down in the marrow of her bones, that she hadn't just lost a battle. She revealed herself for exactly what she was. Small, petty, replaceable. In the end, no grand apology could fix it. No frantic networking could erase it. Karen had burned a bridge she didn't even know she needed, until it was already ash in the wind, out on the open water. Lila watched the last of the harbor lights flicker into the distance, their glow swallowed by the deepening night. The ocean stretched before her, endless, wild, and free, just like the life she had built quietly, piece by piece, while people like Karen had been too busy trying to play queen of tiny kingdoms. She wrapped her arms around herself for a moment, feeling the cool evening breeze tug at her hair, and let herself savor it. Not the humiliation Karen had suffered, but the certainty that she no longer needed anyone's permission to exist, to succeed, to be seen. She had already written her own story, and it was just getting started. Below deck, the soft clink of glasses and low hum of conversation signaled the beginning of the evening's gathering. Real partners, real friends, people who understood the value of vision over vanity. As Lila descended the polished staircase, the steward greeted her with a warm smile. "The guests are ready whenever you are, Miss Greystone." She smiled back, feeling light, unburdened. Let's not keep them waiting. The yacht's engines thrummed beneath her feet, powerful and steady, carrying her into the future she'd carved out for herself. A future Karen could never touch. Somewhere back on shore, Karen would probably spend the next few days licking her wounds, spinning new stories, convincing herself that the world was unfair, that Lila had just gotten lucky. But Lila knew better. Luck had nothing to do with it. Respect couldn't be demanded. Success couldn't be faked. And dignity? That was something you either carried inside you or you didn't. As the yacht sliced through the dark waves, Lila smiled to herself, not out of spite, but out of pure, boundless peace. She was exactly where she was meant to be.